Okay, we're gonna do this the YouTube way. I don't know how to get it on profitably using that video recorder. So I've been talking about the blog about using volume or how much volume to actually gauge the strength of a trend and when it might be turning, when it might be continuing, but more importantly, where to actually get in on a buy once the trend is established. I'm still with TOS. And I have to be biased to the long side because TOS does not have a whole lot of shares to short. Every once in a while, you can find something. There are certain tickers under $10 that are always shortable, um, and but you got to take what you can get. Their level two is not the greatest. It's kind of crappy. I've emailed them a few times about trying to upgrade stuff, but who am I to tell them what to do? Anyway, this is after the market is closed, so there's no action in anything. But anyway, I'm just going to go over a trade that I did earlier and talk about some of the volume bars that I've been talking about in the blog. Sometimes it's hard to explain stuff that you see visually in text, so hopefully this will clear some of that up. I've been getting some questions in the chat room from several people about how I actually look at this, and it's been working pretty well. Until I can fine tune this, then I'll probably get over to Interactive Brokers and switch everything there because they have more shares to short. Because I know I'm missing out on plays, but when I get this down, I'll just turn around the opposite and do the same thing, but short a stock. Okay, so there were several tickers running this morning, but I was watching VBLT, but for some reason at the time, this ticker SYN, SYN, caught my eye. And I did this, I do a simple scan in the morning, like everybody else does, looking for stuff that has volume pre-market and some kind of movement. Glance at the news. If it's, some kind of has some kind of validity to it, then okay, there's your catalyst. Um, and then I do a scan a few seconds after the open, then a few minutes, and then a few minutes again. It's basically the same thing that I posted in the blog, something that's up 5% within a volume range, or a given volume range. So it's SYN. When I did the scan, this was showing up in the morning. And so basically, I just waited for it to open. I never buy right at the open. I've yet to make a trade pre-market because it's too iffy. Just won't do it. I'd rather see the market open, establish a trend at all, or if at all, and then try to find a place to get in. So when SYN opened up, it was down pretty well. I had a few trend lines drawn from the previous couple of days already. Um, but I was looking for a turnaround to happen. And when I say I look for a strong up bar in volume that determines, a turn in price, it's usually the largest bar that gets that going. And in this case, it's not the first volume bar like you see here, and it's not the first up bar in a price chart at all. It's how much volume gets a stock going. And here you see this spike in volume. And what I do, I just simply get my trend line tool and click on the top so that draws the line all the way to the right of the chart for that day, or it probably keeps going. So I use this level as a gauge to tell me if price is going to continue, if price is going to turn, um, and that sort of thing. So SYN in particular was down at the open. And so this strong buy volume bar shows up. And the trend's already up, so maybe some people are taking notice of the news and they're jumping in. So fine, that adds more fuel to the trend or more strength to the upside. So we have this bar established, and you can see from there, price is on its way up. Or at least I see it, it's up. You can interpret that chart any way you want to. That's the way I see it. Price is going up because of this volume bar. Price is going up. The overnight, the pre-market high was around 3. That was one tick. That was, really not a whole lot in here to judge any kind of resistance by, but It's a gauge, it's a marker, it's 350, it's a nice even number, so I went with that as far as where this might be eventually coming back to. But before we get there, so we have our level established where we think price action is going to adhere to as far as buying volume goes. All right, so we have price coming up, strong volume shows up, price continues. The next step for me is to wait for a pullback. This is, the trend is starting right here. It is up. My thing is I wait for a pullback most of the time to get in because I told myself that I've done chasing things. I think I'm 99.5% done chasing markets. Okay, everybody's going to have that stupid trade every once in a while. I'm trying to be done with all of them. So we have our uptrend established per this volume bar's rules, or what I think. All right, and my next thing is wait for a pullback or a price stall and look for some kind of resistance level where I see that that's kind of a target for me to actually get in once that level is broken or there is strength going into that level. So here, after our volume spike, we see price it's still going up, but it's pretty thin, but it's not actually falling off either. So I'm looking at this area, this 1, 2, 3, this 4 or 5 bars as a resistance level as our next level to get through. So what I start doing is, after I see this price spike, in my mind, I'm saying, okay, the trend is up. Look for weakness to get in. This isn't the best dip. This isn't even a dip. This is this is a dip area. This is a dip area if this was an uptrend. But sometimes these things are quick, and you just have to recognize weakness. And if you can spot any kind of resistance level as a reason to get in after that, or strength coming back into it, that's what I look for. So here we had our volume spike. And this is where I start looking at level 2 in the time and sales. This is where I want to see the bids firming up and the ask. There's maybe 1 or 2 market makers at every level in the ask, and you see a lot of bids, and every one of those starts getting taken out really easily. Of course, you want the bids stacked and the asks pretty thin when you're going long, but if you recognize this volume and if you see the time and sales that start to really stream in green and you're at this resistance level and you see this happening, this bar is where this isn't lining up, but this is where I got in. I got in during this bar because I saw the bid firming up, asks were getting hit, time and sales were streaming green, and this is where I got in. Okay, and that's all there is to it. You see the volume establish the trend. You wait for a pause or a pullback. You monitor or try to find a resistance area to get through. Watch level 2. You see it going your way, and boom, you get in. Now, my target area was somewhere in this 350 area. I got in, I believe, at what I write down, at 331. So I got in while this bar was forming at this time. And I got out, where did I get out? 319, I think, somewhere right, not 319, 339, I believe, during this bar, because I recognized the fact, even though this was a strong bar, I saw that the volume was going to level out and that the bid and ask were starting to get weak or starting to thin out. And that was a quick move. I went in with 2,000 or 3,000 shares, I believe, and got 8 or 9 cents. So, do the math. If you can do that a few times a day on a given stock, $500-600 a day, that's nothing to sneeze at if you can do that consistently. Yeah, you're going to take losses, but end the day green. But either way, back to the volume. When you draw this level, okay, that's that. I don't change that. That does not change for me during the day. Once I find this volume level where it's going to get a stock moving, I'm figuring in the future it's going to take that much volume to get this price action going back up again. If this got it moving in the beginning, it's going to take this much to get it going again. And I've also talked about in the blog about when you see a large slam bar come in, this is where you have the volume bar going in the opposite direction. That is the largest opposite sell bar, in this case a sell bar during the trend. you're most of the time going to see a pause or a change in direction. So even though I was already out here, I recognized weakness. I could have squeezed out some more here, but you know, nobody's perfect. I got out when I thought I saw weakness, made some bucks, and I was done at least for this entry. If I would have seen another volume bar come in and this price level breached, then I would have been looking for another dip buy entry. But even though it was breached, I did not see that. I didn't like the buying volume. There was nothing there telling me that there are more people getting interested. It was just the opposite. You had the red slam bar followed by enough, 3 bars of selling. That I don't know if that's positive or negative, or buying or selling, and then this large volume bar, and it goes down from there. All right. Throughout the day, more selling, nothing but selling. There is no reason to dip buy any of this because I see no volume at all. This is a huge sell. You have a huge spike here, but there's no clear resistance point to probably get through. Maybe right here, but again, price didn't get there. There was no real dip. That was a massive sell-off right there, which, even if that was a turn, I would still wait for this to come up in this direction, back up, and then dip, and then look for the dip for strength to come back and then get in. Again, even if this was a turn, I still want to see this actual price action change up. I'm not going to buy right here just because of that bar, because this trend is still down. Same thing here. Trend, another big sell bar. You have a few bars of volume, but again, there's no change in trend. It's still down to flat, and that's what it does. If you were shorting this, you would look for the opposite thing. Here's your support. You would monitor level 2 to start, loading up on the ask side. Everything on Time&Sales is showing red to look to go short there. Same thing here, short at this level. Same thing here, short at this level. It's just the opposite. Hopefully I'll start doing that at Interactive Brokers. Okay, later in the day, this is Central Time for TOS. You have a buildup of volume. If you added this bar to this bar to this bar is going to be above this white line. And so I would have seen this as a trend or a resistance point right here to look for a break. If you can't see this as resistance, then you need to go back to square one and study charts. I only have 3 minutes left. I got to talk fast. So either way, this would have told me that we're starting to get some momentum back, and price has come back up a little. This would have been kind of a risky trade, but it's because there's not really a trend that has developed yet, but it's such a easy to spot resistance area. This is where I would have been starting to monitor level 2 again really hard, and Time&Sales. When they start streaming green and this point is broken, you would see this bar forming, and this would be telling me to buy right here. This is 302 to 3, that's 14, 15 cents, but again, 3 or 4,000 shares. If you don't want it, I'll take it. And you can see these throughout the day. Looking at VBLT really quick for today, this was great price action, but I just was not focused on it. You see this level. Here's some price action. This should be probably a little lower actually, but this is what got it moving. Same thing. Look at the action going up. This would have been your break to look for, to monitor level 2 right here, to look for the strength coming in and break that. And up here, selling, 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 big selling. We get back to this level. I'm not going to move this at all during the day. Price comes up again through this level. This might have been a little bit tricky to get in right there. And you had what, 5 or 6 cents, but sometimes this is not perfect, but this is what I look for. But either way, you have a nice established trend that was on its way up. So maybe you could have been a little more cavalier or generous with your stop. But either way, there's not a lot of selling showing up. There is selling, but it came back down to the support line. But a good place for me, if I was going to trade, I would have noticed this and monitored level 2 and buy on this break. Same thing here. Monitor level 2, buy on this break. This is where you want to watch it. This is where you want to get in. Actually, probably a little soon. This is all after the fact. But you would have seen Time&Sales streaming right here. Late in the day, I missed this because I was in the freaking bathroom. This was so easy on this break. Where's my line? It disappeared. So here it is. Use this as your gauge. Monitor level 2. When it shows strength and it's coming up to these prices, right, these previous resistance points, buy it.